Rum cake isn't just a recipe, it's a slice of mid-century cocktail party culture. In the 1950s and 60s, America was in love with entertaining. Bar cards rolled out, highball glasses clinked, and home cooks embraced the fun of adding a little spirited flair to their desserts. Cakes soaked with bourbon, rum, brandy, and liqueurs were suddenly everywhere. Harvey Wallbanger Cake on this channel, made with vodka and Galliano. There was bourbon-laced derby pie, creme de menthe grasshopper cake, and of course, the famous brandy-soaked fruit cakes on this channel of the season. Then in 1970, Bacardi did something that changed homemaking maybe forever. They released their very own original Bacardi Rum Cake recipe. It spread through newspaper columns, recipe cards, junior league cookbooks, church potlucks, and Tupperware parties. It became the dessert of the decade. It was moist, buttery, elegant, just boozy enough to feel festive. Today, I'm making that original rum cake exactly as home cooks did during the height of cocktail party eras. Rich, golden, drenched in warm rum glaze, and absolutely unforgettable. In this recipe video, we are going to step back into that glamorous, entertaining era and bake a little piece of history. But first, I have a story time. If you don't want to hear it, I will put the recipe start time on the screen. So this is a bit of a rum story. So rum is, I would say, not something I buy, right? It's fine. It's just not something that would be in any kind of rotation in my home. And years ago, when I was a private chef, I focused mainly, my specialty was the multi-course formal seated dinner party, and it was weekend. So pretty much every weekend I was booked. And then during the week, as a result, I was not working, right? So I also was a food writer, and it's pretty popular back in my time. And I'm invited as a result to, as you might expect, the agent and the PR companies, you're on their list and they invite you to restaurant openings, maybe like rebrandings. If there's a new chef and the chef, he or she, has decided to write a new menu for the restaurant and they want to, show you what's new and happening there at the restaurant so you can get the word out, kind of the original influencer culture, right? And there's wine tastings that happen. I was invited to plenty of those, but what was a one-time only, it had never come across my desk before, was an invitation to a spirits event. And my ears kind of perked up because I'm like, oh, this is something different. I would try to go to everything that I was able to. I'm a social person. I want to know what's going on. I want to try new things, all of that. So I agreed, even though what it wasn't perhaps my taste. However, when you're in this kind of industry, you need to be open to everything. So whatever's presented to you, you approach professionally, you communicate it to the reader effectively, regardless of what it is. So I arrived to this event. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon on a weekday. And of course, there was transportation provided because there's 20 of us here drinking 7, 8, 9, not necessarily full portions of something, but you're generally going to take 2, 3 sips of something to get the taste of it, to have your notes to write about. So this event was put on a very well-respected Scotch whiskey company. Again, that's not my taste. However, I'm happy to taste it, communicate, is it smooth, what you should know about it. The purpose of the event was, one, to launch a limited edition of beverage, something that they were offering in their lineup. And when you do see that for a spirits house that you like, it's a limited edition. Give it a try. Why not? So they were launching that, and they also wanted to expand their presence in the United States. This is a Scottish-based company. So they have as you might expect, a handsome young man with a Scottish accent presenting things to us. The room is exquisite that they rented it out. They are hauling around all of this accoutrement to give us the total experience, like a luxury experience, which consisted of empty casks, which they age their spirits in, and the small kind of copper distiller that's a trademark. And I don't know, it's not exclusive to them, but it's something that they pride themselves on using, bottling their product. So all of that's there. So imagine taking that all around the country to speak to different groups of people to kind of get the word out about your product more. That's a lot. Like, so I'm in this room. It's a gorgeous room. I go to a lot of these events, and I was impressed. I really was. So he explains to us what we're going to be sampling. And after he names off the different ages of the Scotch whiskeys that they have, he said that there would be a sipping rum. Like, what? I had never heard of such a thing in all my life, but it sounds delicious, doesn't it? And of course, rum is derived from sugar cane, so it's going to be sweet, and I don't know what else, because it would have been aged, so it's probably going to have those baking spices notes to it that you get when you're aging in those type of casks that they had. So we've got, I think there was maybe 6 whiskeys for us to taste. They were all, for what they were, fantastic. But my mind is so distracted because I know it's coming at the end, and it is this delicious sipping rum, or so I'm assuming, because I know that they make a quality product in general. So they're not going to put their name on something that isn't quality, right? So here the time comes, and the sipping rum comes out, and the first smell that comes over me is caramel, right? It's got this wonderful caramelly scent. And I just, he's telling us about, and I don't want to sip it. I want to hear what he has to say, so that I have the information I need to communicate to the readers. And then it's time to sip. And just thinking about it now, like, my mouth is watering because it was so delicious. And I had never had such a thing. So imagine, instead of at the end of a night, if you like brandy, that you sip on a sweet caramelly rum, or instead of a sherry, like your after dinner drink. That would be really nice for the holidays, right? This particular one is no longer available, but there are other sipping rums in that class if you look at your local liquor store. But this was a long time ago, and oh my goodness, it was so incredibly memorable. I forgot about a lot of things that I did in that kind of time of my life, but that particular tasting it left a big impression on me. All right, so now that I've rambled on about fancy rum, let's get to kind of a basic, well-known Bacardi rum cake recipe. And tell me in the comments, like, were you part of this cocktail culture? My parents were. I'm a little too, I was like sleeping in my bed when my parents did this. I was a little young thing, but they had the cocktail culture for sure. My parents loved to entertain. The house I grew up in was set up just for entertaining, and they did these cocktail parties with all, like, the Harvey Wallbangers were there. There was martinis. I don't know, because my mother would tell me as I got older in life, she said, yeah, honey, we used to serve this, this, and this at these parties all the time. So she remembers a Harvey Wallbanger and the Grasshopper type of drink. So yeah, let me know if you're part of that culture. I guess is that some part of the Gen X. I'm like at the high tail end of that. Gen Z? Or is that, I get my generation's a little mixed up sometimes, but yeah, let me know if you're a part of that. And I don't know why it stopped, because entertaining at home, I think it's a lot of fun. All right, let's get making this cake. Combination. It's very similar to Harvey Wallbanger. So it's 4 eggs, a box of the yellow cake mix, instant vanilla pudding, the 3.5 ounce size, 1 cup of nuts. You can use pecans or walnuts. I've got pecans here, and I will chop those up. And you need 1/2 cup of the dark Bacardi for the cake, and another 1/2 cup for the glaze. 1/2 cup of cooking oil, neutral oil, and then what you don't see is water because you know what that looks like. And it is baked in a bun. I use silicone bun. If you do not have silicone bun, highly recommend, because your beautiful design will come out cleanly, less risky than the metal pans. Although I will say the metal pans have some gorgeous options at the top. All right, so let's get this baking. Thinking about how many nuts are in this, I think if you really like the concept of fruitcake but not the traditional add-ins, you could do golden raisins or cut up some soft dried prunes, plums, prunes. I think they get a bad name, but they are delicious in my opinion. And just have the rum with the nuts and your favorite dried fruit in the cake, maybe a little candied ginger. Just a really simple style fruit cake that might be more appealing to other people. That could be a nice little twist on this if you are so inclined. All right, so I'm done chopping. You can buy pre-chopped, but because I like to cook and work with my knives and all that, I happen to like doing everything from scratch. The more complicated a recipe tends to be, the more I like it. I'm not a quick, convenient kind of a cook. I like all the prep work involved. But I understand people are busy and some people just don't want to do as much. We're all different, but there's ways to make things work, right? As long as we get to that good end result. Oops, let me just shake these around. I did put a little spray in here after I just told you that these don't stick. I just want to make sure it doesn't stick since it's a Christmas cake. I want it to be beautiful. All right, so this will go on my metal baking tray because the thing with silicone, it's not stable. So it's always going to need something under it to support it. You know what's interesting in how food these days is, or we're seeing shrinkage in what's in the product. Back in the 80s, it's calling for a 18-ounce box mix. Well, now they're 13.25 ounces. Okay, I'm just saying. Okay, 4 eggs. So I've got eggs, water, oil, cake mix, and in my cake mixes, not that I use them often, but I always do an extra pinch of salt. Just it gives it more homemade taste, and then with so many flavors going on with this, I think it's gonna enhance everything. So a big pinch of salt, and then of course the star of the show, Bacardi Black. Now in the original recipe it says the dark rum 80 proof, which my liquor store person, he nearly fell over when I told him that, but I think it means something else nowadays. I forget how it works out with the proof, but this is similar. And they have gold, white, and then this. So this one I assume would have the most flavor. And as I said earlier, I'm not a rum aficionado, so I kind of went by logic, what would have the most flavor. I am going to hand mix it. You can use a stand mixer, but I think this is simple enough. I can just do it by hand. Like I said earlier, I like to be as hands-on as possible when I'm cooking, because the preparation is my joy when I cook. I like making things more than I like eating things, believe it or not. That's why I enjoyed being a private chef so much, just because I liked making things for people. Okay, careful not to over mix. I think orange zest would be good in here also, especially if you do that addition of the dry fruit. In fact, I have some candied orange peel from that fruitcake recipe I made on the channel last year, if you see it. That's another really simple, crowd-pleasing dessert. All right, let me get, reaching for a rubber spatula, make sure I don't get anything or miss anything that might be in the bottom here. Hey, this is glass, so you can see what I'm doing. Maybe I can see what I'm doing by lifting it up. Yep, there's nothing stuck in the bottom. All right, so I'm gonna put this in the pan now. Get it in the oven. So the oven is preheating to 325, which is an interesting temperature to bake this at. I'm so busy talking, I didn't put the pudding mix in, so let's, let's get that in there. Hey, I'm human, right? Gonna go slow so I don't make this cake tough, because that would be horror of all horrors. Now, a little tip for everybody, excuse me, if you don't know this, if you let your batter rest, even up to overnight, this is why bakery cakes are so good. You give the flour a chance to really hydrate. So I'm going to let this sit here for about 30 minutes before I put it in the oven. And then it will bake for, let's see. Typically bunts are about 50 minutes, just, somewhere under an hour. So yeah, it says bake 1 hour. All right, so I'm going to let it rest, bake an hour, and then we'll be back to make the beautiful glaze. All right, my cake is nearly done, so I'm starting on the glaze. In the saucepan, you're going to melt a 1/4 cup of butter and 1/4 cup of water, a cup of sugar, and then once this dissolves, I'll stir in the 1/2 cup of rum. All right, so my cake is out of the oven, looking gorgeous and delicious. So my plan is, once the glaze is done, while it's warm, I'm going to start spooning glaze over to let it sink in. Probably won't taste this until tomorrow. It's only 10 in the morning here, and I'm making rum cake. But that's how you do when you have a cooking channel, right? Plus I get up at 4 in the morning. This will melt, and I'll show you the glazing process. So I'll just keep spooning it over for the next few hours, let it drink it up, and then when I invert it, the syrup will kind of settle midpoint, and the nuts will be on full display on top. I always think these kind of cakes taste better after they sit a while anyway. I'm excited to try it. All right, time for the rum. Okay, again, that's 1/2 cup. This is a rum cake. Off the heat. Keep all that flavor in there and all that alcohol. Oh, I smell it. All right, I'm going to start spooning it over. So it says in the recipe to brush it, but since I'm going to leave it in the cake pan, I'm just going to spoon it over. So, a pinch of salt first. That's my own modification. And then just spoon while it's warm. Get all in there. So it's kind of dry, almost crusty on the top because of that long bake time, but I'll soften right up with the glaze. Not burnt, just done. The inside, outside. Okay, so about, I don't know, maybe every hour until this is gone, I'm going to repeat this process and then cover it overnight, and then tomorrow we will do the reveal. All right, I have it inverted on my serving plate. Hopefully I have it centered. Let's see how it's looking. So this is overnight and all of the syrup was put on it. Looks like it hasn't all completely absorbed, but it's looking delicious. The nuts on the top, yum. All right, we will cut into it and give it a taste. I am going to serve it with whipped cream, so I'm going to prepare that, whip it up, and then we'll go out to the tasting area. All right, let's try the cake. I think there's a small puddle in the very center of the glaze, so we might see that here when I remove a slice. Getting the light here, you can see here the glaze has penetrated the outer kind of rim, so I would assume that this is going to taste better as the week progresses. So we have nice tenderness, airy. Right, I'm going to do a little whipped cream with it. So this is, I did vanilla. I put vanilla in my sweetened whipped cream. This will be the little boozy corner where, there I see the glaze. See how it's a little shiny? This will be a flavorful mouthful. It's simple. It's definitely rummy. I'm gonna try it here with the nuts because I love the crunch. I'm a crunchy kind of woman. My favorite texture. Delicious. And then let me try the center. I'm making a mess, but I want to see how the center is where the syrup has not reached yet, because there's rum in the batter. I taste the rum. I mean, it's a box cake mix with pudding in it, right? So it's going to have kind of that flavor that you get when you use that for these basic cakes. But I mean, it's very tasty. I like it. It definitely feels like holiday because of the addition of the rum. I don't normally eat all this when I'm still on camera. It's good. I mean, it's delicious cake. It's cold and rainy outside. It's almost Christmas. You know, what's not to love about it? So I will put the recipe in the description if you want to try to make this for yourself this holiday season. And thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.